When about to give up, when tired, hungry, or questioning decisions you've made, well, you have a choice. You can either take a step back and be willing to change, or write out the decisions you've already made. Lindsay Scherr Burgess has had to make some tough decisions in her business of Green Wallscapes to build her team from just herself to a team of 10. And in this show, we not only define what Green Wallscapes are, but how Lindsay grew her business and how she's also growing her family. She's had to work through fear, but has emerged stronger than ever. So make sure you stay tuned for a wonderful interview. This podcast is brought to you by DJ Works Media with resources and ideas for you at mid-career or halftime of life. Check out our online courses where we want you to not only start, but finish. Books available in all versions and songs available for immediate download with sheet music and instrumental accompaniment tracks. Our musicals are family-friendly with great music that's memorable and inspiring. Sign up at goalsforyourlife.com/newsletter for weekly updates. Now to our episode. Well, welcome to Lindsay. I'm so excited to have you here today. And you have an amazing story, and I'm so excited for you to tell that. And also your business, which is fascinating. And the artist in me is just like loving what you are doing. And I'm so excited for you to share that. But really, you were sharing your story too, and how you got where you are, why you even decided to do what you're doing, because you have such a diverse background. You've done everything from, let's see, what have you done? Well, you speak fluent Italian too. I couldn't believe that. My husband and I took a trip to Italy last summer, and actually we're going to probably go back a little bit this summer, but just to be able to have that. So I'm looking forward to hearing a little bit about that.
Yes.
How you got this fluent. Plus you've worked in like construction, you've worked in real estate and even book publishing. And how did you end up with Green Wallscapes? So give us a little bit of your background kind of in a nutshell before we get going here.
Absolutely. So I started Green Wallscapes. I think the way that most entrepreneurs start their businesses totally by accident. What ended up happening is I was on Pinterest and I saw a moss wall. And at that time, this was like 2016 or so. I was like, I really like that. I want one of those. And when I saw that really the only options were to buy it in Italy or thousands and thousands of dollars, which now I understand why they are thousands and thousands of dollars, I was like, well, I can make this. So I literally went to Michael's, bought some moss, glued it on a frame, and then, showed it to some friends and say, hey, look what I just made. Like, this is super fun. Like, it was literally that. My husband and I are both in the architectural world and have done business development and marketing in all of those industries that you're talking about. Not only did I work in construction and real estate and all these other things, I've also worked in organic food and book publishing, all sorts of different skill sets that have sort of culminated in this entrepreneurial journey. I would say that I probably have a little bit of career ADD in the sense that like, I like things that are fun and shiny and exciting. And so it's been a really wild journey. And I was doing basically Green Wallscapes as a side hustle for about 2.5 years or so, like 2 years. And then in 2018, when I had a project that I was finishing, a book that I was finishing with a family member, and then it was like that project was over and I started looking at jobs just to, go back into marketing or business development for another company. And my husband was like, why don't you see if you can just do Green Wallscapes? And I said, that's not a business. And he said, I'm telling you, it's a business. And so I said, you know what? A worst case scenario, I try this for 3 months or 6 months. If it doesn't work, I'll just go get a job. And as soon as I started putting my attention on it and letting people know that this is what I was doing, it started to roll. And I sort of hit the timing really well. I will tell you, I have started other businesses that did not hit the timing very well. So this was really nice that like what I wanted to create and what people wanted sort of lined up. There's been plenty of times where I've been 5 years, 8 years, 10 years ahead of what people have wanted or needed or whatever. And so it was really fun to, finally have something work at this level. I now have a team of 10 people, 8 in the US and then 2 in the Philippines. And yeah, it's amazing. It's really, really fun. We are doing moss every day, which is wild. I do not get to do a lot of the mossing anymore. I did start in the beginning. I was the, one with me and my husband. We're literally gluing things on boards. Mm-hmm. I have a much more talented team now that is really amazing at doing this. And it's been a really wild experience growing a creative company like this.
Well, you hit on a couple things that are just very interesting to me. Number one is timing. And we discount this sometimes. And I've been ahead of my time sometimes. And it stuff doesn't happen. It just doesn't. People aren't ready for it, and you get going and also being able to hire people to do things that are going to surpass you. And it's challenging to do that, to find those people and to hang on to them and to encourage them. So that's helpful for me too. I try to, surround myself with organizational gurus that can help me with, I put the system together, but let them organize it. But I think the timing is also very important. And you really hit on this, how you kind of found this niche, which was really fun too. I mean, I can envision going into Michael's and, finding those things. We've all, well, not maybe everybody who's listening has done this, but a lot of us have. And you go in there and, you find all sorts of things to be able to do and get ideas for it. So,
and it's just so inspiring and so fun. And, I still, once or twice a year, my team and I will literally get together and we do like creative, fun moss wall days where we just create whatever we want. One, to give them a creative outlet, because the challenge that we have is right now we're creating what clients ask us to create. So we provide the design, they choose, and we create what they want. It's not what we create, what we want. It's we create what, either what we think people are going to want and then they order that, or we do mostly custom fabricated moss wells at very large scales. So not everything's huge, but most of it's like, 30, 50, 100, 200, 500 square feet, something like that. So, and the clients want to say in what we're creating for them. I would say 95% of the time. So It's a little bit different. So to sort of keep those creative juices going, I made a moss wall that was all white. Like that was my dream thing, was like, because everyone's doing this sort of ephemeral beige white thing going on in interior design. So I made myself a white moss wall just to like enjoy and have fun with, but it's not something that we necessarily would sell, but it's nice to keep those creative juices flowing because I am, I can see what I want to do. I'm not actually able to like physically get my hands to always do what I want to do. And my team is amazing at like just the execution of that. Right. And it's so true. Finding the right people, it's trial and error. I have had, and then with COVID and everything else, I launched in 2018, really seriously. I had my first employee in 2018, which is more like a contractor or helper person. And then it, kind of really grew very organically. Like, I'd get one and then I get another and then I get another and then I get another. And, slowly but surely we've developed processes and we've developed training manuals and we've developed protocols and we've gotten the right insurance in place and we've gotten the right tax, like bookkeeping in place and all that stuff that you have to do, which when you're just in one aspect, which I was always in sales and marketing, I had no idea about all these other operational things that were so important. Like we just set up a retirement plan for our employees. Like that was 5 years in the making kind of thing. So these are all things that are just part of the process that are just really, difficult and interesting. And, I always joke that like, I have the least glamorous job in my company right now. I spent 45 minutes trying to figure out car insurance today. It's not glamorous,
I totally get it. I totally get it. I was just interviewed for another podcast for, it was in the arts and the music field. And we talked about technology. And I said, you got to be willing to waste a lot of time. And you just, hours go by and you got to figure this darn stuff out. And And, oh, how did you
100%.
learn? How did you get so tech savvy? I said, it's only because I've wasted so many hours and I've barreled through it to learn it. And that's exactly what you've done, is barrel through it and learn some of these things. I mean, car insurance. I mean, my gosh, we got to all. Yeah, I said the rolling in the eyes. Yes, I know those sort of mundane things. We don't, it's like, can't somebody else do that? No.
Right. You make the decisions and,
right.
And again, like I said, I'm here sort of creating the big vision. I'm creating, like thinking about strategic initiatives and looking at all the marketing and thinking large scale, but the actual day-to-day doing of all the stuff is not really my, what I'm handling anymore.
Right.
I'm lucky to have a wonderful studio manager who manages the team and takes care of keeping the projects moving and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, the day-to-day sort of like big vision stuff and on the business stuff and the non-glamorous stuff, that's all my job now.
Well, it's important though, because leadership, we have a lot of places that are just dying to have a good leader. They're not leading a team. People are just all over the place, or they feel restricted, or they're not fed into. And you have employees jumping ship here and there and everywhere because all of a sudden, well, they don't care, or they don't, what am I getting from this? And it's not just a message of entitlement with some of our generation. It is a question of leadership as well. And I think some of those things combined,
a little bit of both, honestly.
I know those things combined is exactly it. But a lot of times it's the leadership that's lacking there. There's a failure to communicate. And
it's an endless battle, I think, with yourself and with your, to make sure that you are communicating what you need.
Right.
But also acknowledging what they need, not burning them out, not pushing them too hard.
Right.
I would say my company's gotten a little bit less efficient because of COVID, in the sense that before I would just be like, let's burn. We're burning everybody's hands out. We're burning everybody's brains out. We're like, we're just going to burn it out. And what I found is that I'm better off having an extra employee and my team just managing like a very manageable amount of work, versus, not having enough employees and the team is constantly feeling like they're behind and they're not set up to succeed. And yeah, the company maybe makes a little bit more money, but what you're starting to see is that yes, attrition happens, or then they come and they say to you, well, this is not fair. Like we're working our brains out, like this is not the kind of thing that I signed up for. I wanted to come here because it's, a happy place and that kind of thing. And it's not, we don't extract every dollar out of everything. Like we just don't do that, because what I found is that it's impossible. You can't, especially with employees, you have to be really manageable. And part of it is like people who choose to work with our company, they may make a little bit less money, but they do have a lot of flexibility. And for a lot of people, especially Gen Z, is what I'm learning is that they need a lot of flexibility. They like that work-life balance thing. They like to know that they come in and they leave and then that's it. Like there isn't these additional requirements. I think, being an very old millennial, I'm on the very cusp of Gen X and millennial. It's interesting to see like sort of these demands that I don't think that I even knew were possible. I mean, you just worked like crazy. I mean, it was just like insane when I was in my 20s and 30s. And what I'm seeing is that with my team, they really do value their time as much as they do the money that's coming in. And they will make choices on where they're going to work and who they're going to work with based on relationships and good vibes and all that stuff. And it actually is really important. We've gone through a lot of, team members in the last couple of years because of COVID. Because, there was that whole great resignation thing that was totally insane.
Yes.
People were leaving for $1 more an hour. They were leaving because, whatever, and there was all of this crazy push-pull, drama and all these things. And one of the things that I have realized is that as the leader, I also have to make decisions on the kind of company that I want to run and the behaviors I'm willing to put up with. And what you will find is as soon as you create that barrier and that boundary, like I'm not okay with this behavior, the people who are trying to push that boundary all the time will leave. And then you get
Yes, I
somebody who
agree.
comes in who is ready to go, who
Right.
wants to support you. And maybe it takes a couple months to kind of get them where you want to go. But I have found that that is the biggest difference between, previous teams. And for example, the team I have now, I really like every single person I have on the team right now, which I know sounds insane. Like, how do you run a company where you're choosing and you're paying? You don't always know what you're going to get with people. But what I have
Right.
found is
Right.
that, it's really important to distinguish, all right, this person is torturing me on a regular basis. And I know that they're good at X, Y, and Z, or they're already trained up and we don't really, or they had a good week or two or whatever it is. But if you're continuously kind of being irked by that person and that experience, I have let those kinds of relationships go on way too long, and it has been more diminishing for me and for the company as a whole, because I let these people stay in the company. So if you identify that this isn't going to work, it's better to, nip that in the bud faster, sooner rather than later. And also support, if you've got somebody great, support them where they are in their life. I have a woman on my team right now. She's pregnant, super happy for her. And I understand too that she may need to come back part-time for a period before she kind of ramps up and figures out childcare. Like, we'll work together on that, because I really want to invest in her and want to invest because I think she's a great person. And so I think it can go both ways in terms of those kinds of things. And yeah, so
That's great advice, especially
yeah.
for a small business and
Mm-hmm.
for one that's growing. And you are exactly right in that flexibility. I have three sons that are launched, thankfully. And I know you're raising family too. So we'll talk
Yes.
about that in a second.
Mm-hmm.
But flexibility is important, especially with one of them. Well, actually with two of them, but there's, I think they would maybe consider another place if they didn't have it.
Right.
Just because a lot of that generation that my sons are, two of them, I had two get married last year, and they're starting their families later. And so at this point, they're really thinking, I do want to have that flexibility to raise my family. It's, they're not in their, young 20s anymore. And there's that difference too, with many of the workers now thinking, there's more to life, and there's, this is a stage. I want to keep working, but I want to have a little flexibility to be able to have a home office, and that might change when that first child comes. But, just saying,
Yes, 100%.
I'm only a mom.
Running to the office.
I'm only a mom. So anyway, but let's talk about that, because that's a priority of yours, of running your business and also growing your family. And you have a young daughter. I don't know if you have a second by this time, but you have Skylar as your young daughter. And it's so cute because I love that name. And I'm thinking there were no names like that when I went. We were having kids, although I had all sons, although you can name them almost anything these days.
So Skylar is actually could be boys or girls.
Boys or girls. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. So we went pretty much.
I think we named her the female version of it, but I'm not really sure. We just like the AR.
It's a beautiful, beautiful name. So talk about that though, and that decision and how that affects you running your business and your lifestyle.
So it was really interesting last year. So my baby was born in October of 22. So she's 16 months old right now. And I was not anticipating getting pregnant. Another fun surprise in my life. I had, my husband and I were married for 8 years, and we had never gotten pregnant before. So I just was we were actually having the conversation, let's sell our house. Let's move to the beach. Let's, think about other things. Cause clearly this isn't working, and there's no need to stay in the school district and the whole thing if we're not going to have a child. So in the month between when we had that conversation and when we got pregnant was when, is when I got pregnant. It's when we were going to list our house. And that was when, peak time when it was you could get any price for your property.
Astronomical. Yeah.
It was crazy. Wow. And so, we were just all right, well, that's not really going to be the case, okay, so we're going to keep our house. Great. Thank goodness we didn't sell our house. But it did really impact, both the year 22 and 23, I am now starting to feel like a normal person again. And it's, I'm 16 months in. There are a few things that I attribute to being able to do this, thinking about the baby as the same way that I think about the systems that I run in my company. So what do I want to do? What do I want to delegate? What do I want to outsource? What are the things? No, because you have to think, especially when you run a company, you absolutely have to think about those things. Okay. Like the same exact way that you would think about your life. I love like playing with my daughter, going to the park with my daughter, having fun with my daughter. Do I love doing my daughter's laundry? No. Do I love cooking tofu for my daughter? Not 100%, not really. So there were certain things like, we're lucky. We found a culinary student that comes in once a week and does meal prep for us. That's huge. It helps me become healthier and it helps my daughter get like really healthy, nutritious food. We have a woman that helps us with dishes and laundry 2 days a week. We have a cleaning lady. I mean, we have a lot of support right now. The one thing I will say is that we're lucky to be in a situation at this point because we had children so late. We actually have the resources to provide for all, to pay for all of these people. Had I done this in my early 30s, I probably would have had to quit my job because there was just no way that we would be able to afford, these kinds of things. So again, like you have to see where you are in your life, and what resources you can afford, what resources you can't afford. How do you want to parent? Do you have a parent that can help you? My husband's parents are amazing. They help us all the time. And what would make your ideal, your life feel really ideal? I remember seeing an old employee of mine, and I had a baby at the same time. She didn't work for me anymore. And I ran into her and, we, at the first 3 months of my baby's life, we had a night nurse. Again, I outsourced all the things I didn't want to do. And we had the resources to do that. And people thought I was insane, but I was like, you don't understand. 3 days a week, I get to sleep through the night. And it made my experience of having a child completely different than every other person I talked to, because I was like, felt great. I was like normal.
Yep. You have to have your sleep. Yeah.
And you have to have your sleep. Right. And so those are the things. And now my mother-in-law takes my baby once a week. So even if she's like, having a rough, couple days or whatever, my mother-in-law, steps up and helps. And it's also too, like, I have an amazing partner. He takes, he cleans things, he, changes diapers. He's up with her in the middle of the night. These things do not only fall on me. And by the way, he's also an entrepreneur and also has a job. So like we have a lot going on. So it's just, it's again, like managing. Is it always perfect? No. Do we fight? Yes. All those kinds of things. But and everyone starts talking about like self-care and all this kind of stuff. Like you have to like carve out time to take care of yourself, because otherwise you really will just have a miserable experience. You won't like your spouse. You won't like your child that much because you're just tired. And if you have resources and, you've been making money for a couple of years or whatever, use those resources to make your experience better. Buy back your time, because what's really important is like the moments when your daughter says something really funny or, it, again, I know that this sounds very privileged. We've worked really hard to get to this point, but it's also, it's one of those things that we've made conscious decisions. We've cut back on other things to be able to have these things now. And we know it's going to shift and change.
I love your comment on buy back your time as well. And you are at a different stage of life because, today, before a lot of couples are having a child, they have what's called that baby moon, go on. Yeah. And it was like, we were scrambling. There was no way we were going to be able to do that. We could barely think about getting into, buying a house from a relative that was going to carry paper. I mean, it was tight. And I was at the beginning of, I just finished graduate work. My husband had finished playing professional ball and we're transitions there. And so we were at a different stage of our life. And a lot of couples are at different stages. And you were at a different stage of life. 100%. And you could do that even with two entrepreneurs. But I tell you that your business sense is wonderful to where you've put your systems in place. And so that's the key there, that you've put those systems in place. You've provided the freedom that you need so you can work on the most important things, which is
Yeah.
is great. So
Yeah. And it's like, everyone talks about working on the business, work on the business, not in the business. Now, I would say I work like 50% in the business and 50% on the business. Some weeks it's like 80-20. Sometimes it's like 100% in the business. It just depends on the week and what we have going on.
Yes.
But,
Well,
I was very lucky. I've had team members where I was like, I need you to document everything. Even if it feels like dumb, document it. Because if you leave, I need to be able to have someone come in and hit the ground running and find these resources and know where they are and not have to search. So we've spent a bazillion hours organizing all of this stuff. So it is plug and play, like come in. And I said to my team, like, I'm going to be gone for 3 months. So I took 3 months off. I think I worked maybe one afternoon a week, during my maternity leave just to check in. And, did my team crush it? They're not salespeople. So did they crush it from a sales perspective? No. But were they great at kind of keeping the boat afloat? Yes.
Right.
And I said, I don't care. I just need the boat not to sink because everybody needs to get paid. I don't expect you to have big visions. That's not what you're doing. I just need you to keep the boat floating.
Right.
And they did that. And then, I came back, so I was gone October to January, came back in January. And I would say that 2023 was a weird year because I think with the interest rates and a lot of people kind of adjusting to what is this? There was some whiplash that we were seeing from just an overall, with all the inflation and all that. I think people were just like, what's going on? And we saw our project sizes change. So during COVID, we had a lot of medium-sized projects, 3,000, 5,000, like a million of these tiny sign projects. And what actually happened post-COVID in 2023 was a lot of, really small and really big. Those were it was like whiplash. So one week you'd be working on a little bit of lettering and the next week you'd be like, okay, let's do a huge wall. And so for the team, it was a lot of this whiplash back and forth. And so, and then it was we just had to make some different choices in terms of how we're running the company. I kept the production team much smaller than I would have just because I didn't want to overburden myself. And we may have missed some opportunities because we couldn't deliver fast enough on certain stuff. But I just couldn't afford another person. This year is different. We have a lot of big stuff already. So it's busy and good.
Good. Well, let's talk about that, just kind of launch on that and how you've gone about growing your team, because choosing the right people is important. We've talked about how important that is, but how you've grown that team, and also where do you see going from here? Because you are the visionary and you are setting the pace. So what, just a couple of those things, can you answer that in kind of a succinct way of just saying how you've gone about finding those right people? First of all, a lot of times it's from referral, but I want to know what how you are doing it, and then where you are going from here.
So we advertise online and we have a pretty straightforward, 90-day kind of introductory period, because you can learn a lot about people. And we're like, listen, you're trying us out. We're trying you out. You have an out here. If this is not for you, it's okay. I'm good. If it's for you, great. We're so excited and welcome to the team and let's go. And what I like to joke is the moss chooses people. People do not choose the moss. We have had people where we're this person's going to be perfect and they just have been a disaster. We've had other people that we're not so sure and they've worked out really, really well. Every time you bring a new person into the fold, there is, things that come up, there's interpersonal things, there's styles, there's communications. You have to work really hard about making sure that person feels included, if they're into that, if they want to be included, or if they're totally introverted, then they'll just put their headphones in and just do the work. And I'm fine with that too. But also us learning each other's styles and the ways that they need to be communicated with and all that kind of stuff. I will say though, we're very particular. We've fired people in 2 weeks because we're this isn't going to work. I already know you're going to create problems,
right? And
you didn't even really do anything yet, which is what's, it's people show you who they are quickly. We've gotten really, really aggressive about, being this isn't going to work more, or they're just not getting the technique. You're training. They're just not getting it. That's really tough. Because you're like, I love you as a person, but like, you can't do the moss. I'm really sorry, kind of thing. It's not for everybody. And that's the thing, is that like, we're finding this kind of intersection between the two things. And then, we give certain people chances, and they pan out or they don't, that kind of thing. So we do have a structured training protocol so that we can see, are they going to get it? And are they open to taking feedback? Because it doesn't really matter as long as they're okay getting feedback, because as soon as you can get the feedback, then you're good, like, moving forward and all that kind of stuff. So, but we're picky also about who we let in and how we incorporate people into the company and all that stuff as well.
Oh, that's great. That's
and then you asked me a second part of that question. Jog my memory.
Where are you going from here? And I thought I'm going to comment real quick on your in working with Moss, because you call yourself the Moss Boss. I love that. The Moss Boss. But okay, so where are you going from here?
So, it's a good question. So part of me is like, there's two roads that we can take right now in my mind. I apologize. I've been talking a lot, so my voice is, there's two roads we can take. We can take the road of, just keep being exceptional at what we're doing. And that's one of the roads we're definitely going to take, is just keep innovating, keep pushing, keep trying new stuff. We've done moss in every color. We've done different florals. We've done, a lot of different things, and really pushing the moss business as far as we can push it. Cause I think that there's more to go. We've been working a lot on our marketing now. So we're starting to see the marketing stuff, which takes time, starting to really pan out, which is really cool. It takes about 6 months to a year for it to really pan out. So, looking at that as one route. The other route that we're looking at is launching, potentially bringing on other product lines, whether that's other green walls, because there's faux boxwood, which is great for outside if you don't want no maintenance outside. So like boxwood, and then there's some faux floral walls, again, that are exterior applications. People put them inside, but they're so ugly that we don't recommend them inside. And then living walls. That's the, sort of the trifecta of what if people want green walls, that's another option there. We thought about also doing maybe more art-driven things. Like we would do, collaborating with other artists. That's something that's, been on our sort of to-do list for a couple of years. Where they have also, big followings and things like that, so that we can do this kind of collaboration and do something kind of neat. And go that sort of more fine art route. Because I think some of the stuff that we do, could qualify for, and we do sell, we work a lot with the fine art, the company, the art consultants and things like that. When they want projects, we've done tons of projects with them. So that's been, a line of the world of thinking that I've really wanted to pursue even further. There's more of that art driven stuff, because it's also more creative and more fun. But at the same time, it may not be the most lucrative. The most lucrative is for us to just go after massive walls and do those kinds of things. I spoke with a woman recently, and she said, Linz, where you are in your life. And I really appreciated this, because she's like, I have children, and she's like, you could just coast with this for a couple years. And then when you find the thing that is the thing that lights you up again, pursue that, instead of just jamming things in to jam them in, because every time you launch a different product line, or there's challenges that you don't know yet. Right.
Yes, I agree.
And so, especially when you're working in the physical world, we make physical things. Not many people in the United States make physical things. And so there's all of these, and then they go in different environments. Some of them have too much light. Some of them, are too close to doors. Some of them, there's not enough humidity. There's all these different factors that can play into how people, and so we have to troubleshoot based on their environment and those kinds of things. So we've gotten really good. We know pretty much everything at this point after the last 5 years about what can happen, both good and bad with the moss,
yes.
right?
Yes.
So the next step would be finding other things that people are asking for. My whole business has been just like listening. And that's another thing that I will say to people is, I was talking to someone who was helping, some like my marketing lady. And I was like, you should do this. You should start a company. And she's like, but I don't know what company to start. And I was like, well, listen, what are your friends into? Do they like, they're missing something and you're just going to meet what they're missing. And it's a bug point. And then you find the solution and then you sell them the solution. And, it was just, she was like, oh, okay. That kind of thing. It's not really more complicated than that. It sounds really easy in theory. In practice, obviously, it's a very different thing, right?
It is. Yes.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yes. That's really a great way though to expand. And I like what you said, just to kind of relax in it, because sometimes, and I really encourage this as well, see what's happening and what's working, and then expand on that, on what's working. Right. Because we can tend, I've pushed products and projects and that just really haven't taken hold, done a complete album projects and stuff. And why aren't people booking this? Well, what was the market for it? Really were people, I had one person ask me, I didn't have 100 people asking me. So there's that, even though they're great projects. So what I find is they come back around eventually, but at the time, just listening and not being in a hurry, mm-hmm. and, taking your time in that. So that's really, really wise advice. And then not being afraid, because you talk about working through fear, and let's talk about that. And we're going to kind of tie things up here pretty soon, but I want you to elaborate on that, because there's a certain amount of risk that you have to take in any entrepreneurial venture. And how have you had to work personally through fear and with working with your team, whatever you're working with?
So every time you go from, I have always been a little bit insane. I will say that. And I think that you have to know what kind of person you are. Right. Like my first job my first thing out of college was a Mary Kay business, which I know sounds insane. I went to Northwestern. It's like, my parents were like, oh my God, you're selling lipstick. Like, we just spent $1 billion on this. It was the best sales training that I have ever gotten, because you literally are forced to go up to people on the street and be like, hey, I like your bag. What's going on? Da, da, da. And that has made me $1 bazillion, not in lipstick, but in selling other things, because it teaches you how to be a salesperson, right? And how to be comfortable being uncomfortable, and how to work through that fear. Well, oh my God, they're not going to like me. Who cares if they don't like you? You care for maybe like a minute, but maybe somebody actually really needs what you want, what you have, mm-hmm. and they don't even know because you didn't tell them. So that's, a way of sort of reframing it. I will say, every time I go from like here to here, there's a gap, right? So when you go from 0 employees to 1 employee, that's a gap, right? When you go from, or you go from 0 to 1 contractor, because that's all where you can afford. And then that contractor becomes an employee, and now you're responsible for them 40 hours a week. And then you see, and you can push and you can push and you can push, you start to work yourself up. I know where I like to be. I'm very happy in this 7 to 10 employee team thing. That's great for me. I think that for you to get to from 11 to 20 and beyond, it's a different, you have to have a lot of demand, and you have to have very expensive projects to keep that many people going. I have had teams that large, and all that ends up happening is you end up having to do so much more administration that it sucks all the extra money. So for our business specifically, there's sort of a good general number for where we can be in terms of profitability and all that kind of stuff, and not loading it up with too much administrative costs, because that's the other thing that kills you in business is administrative costs. So now I've kept it very lean. So I have support in the Philippines, I have myself, and I have an assistant here who's part-time. And that's what I do, to administer most of, and frankly, that's enough. And then put all of the resources I can into the production team, because those people are the ones that are, driving revenue forward. It took a long time to figure that out. And there's been different phases. There's been phases in my career, in the business, where I've needed more administrative support because I didn't want to do it. Or there was projects that needed to happen. and things that needed to be set up. And I was like, go set this up. And they would set it up. And then like, once that was over, then the project was over. And then it became like, well, what do I do with you kind of thing? Like, we don't need this anymore kind of thing. So you have to be kind of flexible with the ebbs and flows of how things are. It's just like having a child. Right now, my child requires a lot of additional support and childcare and all this kind of thing. When she's 10, it's going to be a very different experience, and when she's 15, it's going to be very different again. And when she's 20, it's going to be very different again. And I'm sure you know very well, like all these things have a phase and a season.
Oh my goodness. Yes.
Yes. Yeah.
Yes, they do. They really do.
Honestly, for anybody who has run a company in the last 5 years, the amount of whiplash that all of us have been through in terms of fear from, oh my God, I'm bringing people together and we're not really supposed to be together. And, and my employees at that point were like, please, we do not want to be at home. It's so boring.
Yes.
Please, like, keep our jobs, And for me, I was deathly afraid. Oh my God, I've spent all this time training people and getting them to the point where I want them. And now we're just not going to do that anymore, kind of thing. So we had to like space everybody out. And I mean, it was crazy for a period there.
Yeah.
I mean, everybody was wearing masks all day long. I mean, it was really uncomfortable and awful. Yes. Like, whatever. We worked through that. Then we worked through the great, resignation. That was terrible too, because then, it was like some of the people that I had trained up, some of them left. Then we were working through, and then the economy got weird. Mid 2022, things started to shift a little bit. And so we've been through like every possible, but I think every possible scenario. I mean, I could be wrong. And what I have found is when I really start getting in my head, I always go back to, Linz, you can fix this with more time, more money, or more moss. And when I say that, it diminishes the stress in me, because I'm like, okay, I am like building this up as like a catastrophic thing, when really it could actually be like, a blessing in disguise. I've had situations that were like, I thought catastrophic. A key employee left, something. And typically what I have found is within a few months or within a few dollars or within, some more moss or whatever, I have been able to solve that problem and then move forward. And something typically much better that I wouldn't have seen wouldn't have happened because of that. It's a continuous learning experience. And, when you're making investments, like big investments, or you're trying to take something from here to here, you have to just kind of weigh it. And you have to also jump sometimes and be like, all right, well, I think this is going to work. I hope it's going to work, barring a catastrophic situation. But I've already been in catastrophic situations. I graduated college in 2004, 2008, the world ended and I was doing commercial real estate. Let me tell you, that was really terrible, and like, you just keep plugging along and, you get through credit card debt, you get through student loans, you get through all these things, you get through challenges with having small children, you get through business challenge, you get through all this stuff. And then the other end of it, you get a little money and you need a vacation. But
yes. You go to Italy.
Go to Italy and you use those Italian skills. To really.
And how did you learn Italian, by the way? Fluent.
Yes. So I in high school, I was fluent in Spanish. And so by the time I have a thing for language. I love language. And I love people in other places. So in high school, I went on a trip with my grandparents. I think I was a senior in high school, and we went to a couple different places in Europe, and I'd never been to Italy before. And I got to Italy and I looked around and I was like, oh my God, these people have figured out life. They have the best food. They have the best clothes. They have the most handsome men. They have the most, like their buildings are gorgeous. Their life is about art. Oh my God, like this is incredible. I have to figure out how to get back here. So I decided when I went to college that I was going to have a double major, Italian and communications. So started, from ground zero. I remember being in like Italian 101. I was fluent in Spanish. So I thought, oh, I'm going to crush this. It was really hard to start learning a language at, 18 versus 12 or whatever. And so I persevered. And then, a family member of mine has a home in Italy. So I spent some time in there in the summer. And then I went back for a year and did a year in a, sorry, more, I would say it's like I joke, it's like the equivalent of the University of Wisconsin or University of Florida. There are 140,000 Italian students, and there were 500 Americans.
Wow.
And I went to the University of Bologna, and I spent a year really immersed in the culture, had a bunch of boyfriends. That helped too, because we were fighting in Italian. But it did help my language skills a lot. And of course, I was taking classes and all that kind of stuff. But I went to the university and I really sort of immersed myself, and we had tons of Italian friends. It was really an amazing experience. So for people who want to learn foreign languages and they're in college, I always say, don't go to the major program that the Americans are in. You've got to go to those secondary or tertiary programs. Like if you really want to get into the culture, because the relationships that you make, I mean, I still have friends to this day. When I go to Italy, I visit with them. It's really fantastic. So
that's great.
And the dream long-term is to, retire there or spend significant amounts of time there and, really enjoy, having, more of a half American, half Italian life. That would be the dream. And so who knows, I say this stuff and then, it's funny. I mean, I really have a wonderful life here. I will say that living in Florida and, however you feel about Florida, I live in my little bubble in West Palm Beach, which is very urban and cool and liberal and fun. It's a great place to live and a great place to raise a family and all that kind of stuff. So, feel really grateful for that too. So
that's neat. I just wanted people to know, that part of you too, as well as, the business part, which is, there's people behind these businesses, but I think the big part of your story is how you have built your business. And as we close this up, how can people get to know a little bit more? I will put your links, of course, but a little bit more of what should they look for on your website, or how should they, if there's something that they need to for sure look at or get from you, how do they do that? And do you have just a one takeaway for everybody?
So you can find us on greenwallscapes.com. And I mean, I would just say, if you're curious, we have like really beautiful galleries of our work, of different installations and things like that we've done. I would say my biggest takeaway from this is, life has stages, life has seasons, so if something feels really difficult, just keep going. If something feels really wonderful, it too shall pass. There's different phases of life that happen, and different phases of business that happen. And typically, if you just keep going and you try to make good decisions based on the information that you have. A friend of mine who's a coach said, I made the best choice based on the information I had. And then I found out later that wasn't the right choice. So I made a different choice. I think thinking about things that way, sometimes it's not always so black and white. Getting all the information you can ahead of time is the way to go. But then sometimes you just have to take those leaps of faith. And I mean, Green Wallscapes has definitely been a leap of faith in a lot of ways. And there have been times where I was like, what am I doing this for? Like, this is terrible. And there's been other times where like we've done a huge installation and I'm like, wow. My little company did this big wall for this big company. Like, what a cool thing. So, really
I think everybody goes through that, but the main thing is that you need to not be afraid. You have to make a decision, or you have to act on it. Otherwise, time will go by, and then more time will go by, and then more time, and then, it may be too late. So you just have to be able to act and find out, okay, is this really with the information that you have? So that's very, very wise advice. So
absolutely.
Lindsay, thank you so much for joining us today. And for all of you who have stayed with us all this time, what fun this has been. Make sure that you make sure you look at Lindsay's gallery with the green wallscapes. They're beautiful. I was just, entranced by them, and just all the different designs, and some of them that have color and everything else. So, and the materials that you use too. That's all included on the website, which is fascinating. So, and to make sure for anyone still with us, that you do follow our podcast, that you subscribe, and so you don't miss anything. And also on our newsletter, goalsforyourlife.com/newsletter. You get lots from me. I give away a lot of free stuff, as well as, provide a lot of links to all the things. We have a lot of product. So just to encourage you all. So thank you again, Lindsay, for joining us today.
Thank you so much.
A wonderful pleasure. And so everyone else, bye for now. We'll see you next time. Bye-bye.
Bye. Thanks again.
Thank you for joining us. It is because of our wonderful listeners like you that we keep going strong week after week. We'd love it if you'd share and follow us to not miss a single show, and even write a review. You can also find all of our articles, products, and links at womenathalftime.com.